Alright, this is a Monday, the first day of trading in a while because of Thanksgiving weekend the other week. So I have right here in the main watch list just OTCs for potential morning panic bounce plays. Unfortunately, like I said yesterday in the weekly recap, it seems like it's going to be a thing. Commission trading with Schwab is going to happen on OTC. So I might change brokers. I might do interactive brokers. They just might be that much cheaper. But ultimately, I'm going to be moving the dollar risk level to $30 since I still have the ability. Why not try practicing, trading somewhat larger size before that inevitably happens? I know I said that word wrong. It's kind of early in the morning, but that's what I have in mind. Morning panic bounce plays, I'll probably trade with a $30 risk level, and I'll probably do 8 if not 15 on the higher low, lower low setups. That's going to be the case there, and I am going to be looking at listed stocks more just because of the fact that those I'm able to be trading without paying commissions on Schwab. So that's what I have right now. It's just going to be potential morning panic bounce plays for most of these setups. I think except for RGBP, I wouldn't like this one if it has a morning panic. If it were to maybe break this 15.4 level and do something clean, maybe that could be something. And I'm not really that much of a swing trader, but I might consider IFAM where it is on a daily chart, just like $100 position, just for like a swing trade to hold. Maybe you can try to make another run up, maybe like a head and shoulder, shoulder head, and then it tries to make a run up and make a shoulder, and probably a cut if it breaks this sub penny 94 level, give or take, somewhere around that level. That's all I have for right now. It's just going to be morning panic bounce plays with a higher dollar risk level. Out of the 11 that I've traded, over this month, and I think a little bit over last month, only 2 of them did not work out. And of those 2 that did not work out, one of them I got out for a slight profit, and the other one was like less than 0.5% loss. So, I don't see why I shouldn't try to do that, but I will try to be cautious. Alright, it is 9:46, and I did trade CYBL for a morning panic bounce play, but I think this one tricked me because, it looks like a morning panic bounce play, but this was really just a gap up because it closed, down here, and then when it had this open and then it downtrended, it actually wasn't really sure. It went from 32 to 29, almost 30, so that isn't horrible range, right? But this thing wasn't really like a morning panic. It just had like a gap ups. Maybe some idiot with a Robinhood equivalent of a broker just hit the very top with a market order or something crazy. But yeah, this in theory looked like a morning panic bounce play, but it actually wasn't it. And I did get out, and I'm very happy because even though it didn't work out, as you can see, I traded a massive, at least compared to what I normally trade, $1,700 position, give or take, and I was doing that $30 risk. And even though I traded a $1,700 position, I only lost like $3. So, $3 and what, 51 cents, and I think that's pretty good. So let's just go over it. My entry was 934, and that was right here. That was at 299, which was the ask. And to summarize, there was just a big seller that showed up on the ask, and it just didn't let the stock move. And on top of the fact that it probably wasn't a real morning panic bounce play setup, it just didn't work out. I did sell at 298, so that was why I got out for just such a small profit, because it's not small profit, small loss, because of the fact it was just like a little difference of a penny between my entry and my sell. I sold most of my size at 937, so I was in at 934, 935, 936. It just started to look bad. It wasn't immediately working like I wanted to, so I got out at 298, 40,000 shares. And then at 939, I did sell 10,000 more shares. And then the last one on 10,000 shares, the smallest piece, this one I just waited. If it was going to break my support level, which was this 298 level, I'll cut it immediately. And that's what happened at 943, which was right when 943 hit. So basically 942. is when I placed my order, it didn't get executed until like the right at 9:43. I saw that it was like 297.95. It rounded to 298, but it was slightly under it. And yeah, that was a trade. Now this thing, you can see this wick here. This was just some yuppie with 1,000 shares who got executed at that price. I feel pretty bad for him. I feel pretty bad for him, but that was the case there. So just two lessons, I think. One, I just need to focus and pay attention before entering a trade that is a morning panic bounce play. It is not just some crazy gap up that it had and it got sold into. Because if I were to have seen that, maybe I wouldn't have considered it. And no, actually, that's about it. I don't think I did anything wrong. Besides that, let's just go over it. 60,000 shares at 299, and that was again at 934 right here. So 60,000 shares, 299, by right about there. So in theory, at 934, it was right here. If it was gonna break 298, I'd get out. And worst case scenario, I'm out at 295, which could have been possible. 295, that's 770, right? So that's $24. I think that's close to my $30 risk level without playing around trying to get the extra maybe 10,000 shares. I would have made it exactly a $30 risk level without taking so long doing stuff like that I missed the setup. It didn't work out here. Again, I just got played by this. And as for the others, they didn't really have a morning panic bounce play. Maybe here with TGGI, a later one, probably not. It's not dropping that much. Something that I've learned from my weekly recap is that some of these setups don't even offer that much percent range. Nothing here with AABB, DPLS, nothing, and nothing here. I am in at IFAN, right at I think like 11.35 or something like that. Sure, 11.8 just got executed, I guess, a while ago, but that's at the ask. In theory, I'd like to hold this for a long time because it can try to make a move towards the upside like I went over previously. That's all I have. I'll make an update later. I'll probably be looking at listed stocks or any OTCs that are up on the day rather than morning panics. Just a small lesson there. Even though I didn't make anything there, I'm happy that I was able to trade such a large size and only end up losing $3 because I just just because of the way I've traded over the past few months trying to get better at morning panic bounce play setups. Alright, it is 10:10 a.m. I pretty much hesitated on this move, but it just felt with the price action that it was going to turn around, and this could be like an inverse head and shoulders in the making. Shoulder, head, makes a spike, ideally towards VWAP, and then it makes a shoulder. I could have been in at like 928, and it looks like it's immediately starting to fail. I'm not gonna cut this out, dude. Nobody's 100% right, but in theory, I would be to my $4 risk level on listed stocks, and in theory, worst case scenario, I get out at 870. I'd cut the trade if it breaks under this wick here at 893, which it looks like it's trying to make a run towards. I would have been just slightly profitable for a moment there. And yeah, listed stocks is a whole other animal. Let's see if it breaks right here. In theory, I'd cut again if it gets to 892, the wick here. It can still try to turn around, but I'd be pretty pissed. And more interested in selling for break even if we happen to get a spike towards the upside. Although it could still be the head here of an inverse head and shoulder, head, and then it spikes towards VWAP officially, and then maybe makes a shoulder, which is going to be higher than this range. In theory, I would be in at 929. Let's just say 929, $92. And then it breaks this level, big panic. I get out at 870, so that's 92.90. yeah, that's $5. That's basically my $4 risk level. It's actually not looking too bad right here. The problem is that if it breaks 9, it could have a big red candle flash, and then I'm not able to get out. Ideally with my plan, just because listed stocks are so damn choppy. I might consider a trade here, but I'll make an update later. Alright, it is 7:43, and I think I'm going to call it off and maybe make an update when the markets are closed and see what everything does. I did take the trade with NRXP, and it looks like I was in it for a minute. It just did not work out, and I think a lesson I can make is that if I'm looking at something that could potentially be an inverse head and shoulders, and it looked like it tried to do it before but it failed, I probably shouldn't consider it. This thing isn't shortable. At Schwab, for a very long time, it was following this downtrend line. Maybe I should try to focus more on doing trend lines on listed stocks, because they seem to really follow them a lot of times. Maybe something like this. It's not an exact science, so maybe is actually trying to do something now. Maybe gonna break that line, but yeah, I did try that. And again, this is in theory an inverse head and shoulders that failed, shoulder, head, and then it made this uptrend, right? But it didn't make a shoulder. It made something lower than the head, and then that kind of broke the pattern. So then maybe at that sense, I should probably just stop trying to do an inverse head and shoulders inception, where it's just continuously doing lower lows. So I did get in at 906, and that was at 10:15. So right here, 10:15, right? This candle right before I had the big red candle, and of course I stuck to my plan. I got out the moment it broke 893. I got out at 885, right about here. Totally fine. Maybe I was a little bit too much in size. Maybe I was sized too much. I guess we'll just take a look really quickly. Right, in theory I was in 15 shares at 906. Right, in worst case scenario I get out at 870 because there's a lot of slippage, so we're looking at 135, almost let's just say 136. Yeah, so I was probably trading a little more size than I should have. I probably should have done maybe just 10 shares, which is what I originally had. I did put a little more. I added more shares when it dropped lower, but in that case, it wasn't enough for me to add 5 more shares, because that's 50% more from the original 10 shares I have. So in theory here, 870, 10 shares, and then I'm in at 906. Right, so 906, and then 870, so that's 90. Yeah, that's closer to my $4 risk level, and then I would have lost less. But yeah, that was the thing here. Maybe it can try to uptrend, because it did break this trend line here, and it can try to make a move towards the upside. Yeah, I might have to, again, if it looks like it's inverse head and shoulders that failed previously, like it did here, shoulder, head, and then this ended up being lower than the head, I should probably just stay away from a setup like that, because it didn't work out clearly. But I'm gonna see later when the market closes. Let's see if this thing can do something towards the upside. And I think I should have just avoided this trade again for that reason, as well as CYBL, because that one did fail because it never really had like a morning panic. So I kind of got tricked on these two setups, and if I just stick to my rules, I can avoid a red day like that, or at least a red trade. I do not like the fact that I am down $6.66, because that is an evil number. Yeah, I just don't like that. Maybe if I can try to get a sell, maybe I can sell 1,000 shares and not make it that evil number. But I'll look at the markets just a little more. But quite frankly, I might not trade anything else unless it maybe tries to do like an inverse head and shoulders here, because it is also breaking the trend line. But probably not. end the day with an evil number lost. But yeah, I'll make an update probably at the market close unless I happen to trade something. But I just don't like that number there. But that's fine. It's not. It doesn't mean anything. But I'd rather not have it there if I have a choice. But I shouldn't trade against my rules or do something stupid just to not have that number. But yeah, 2 trades. I'll make an update later. Maybe I might consider NRXP just because it's also breaking the trend line, but probably not. Although this thing can very well do something nice. And VWAP, there is some nice distance between where it is now and VWAP. Alright, it is 10:59. I have a lot of orders from Black Friday over the weekend, Thanksgiving, that I need to catch up with, so I am going to be just watching NRXP. In theory, the inverse head and shoulders worked out. Here's the shoulder, head, and I like how it also broke this trend line, so maybe there can be something that can also be another reason why this thing can continue towards the upside. The daily chart is disgusting. The volume is there at least. And here was the shoulder, maybe in at 864, best case. And then it did have the squeeze at 906, so that's like what? Maybe 5%, a little under 5%. So what I'm watching now for is maybe in theory the inverse head and shoulder, second higher low, shoulder, head, shoulder, and then it makes a higher low. Ideally, maybe you can try to hold the 870s. Ideally, it's not going to just try to hold this 880s level and do something crazy. Then I'll miss it completely, but that might actually be the case. I have a long way to go with listed stocks because, you know, I've been focused on OTC, so I'd have to, you know, just start just learning and watching price action. But that's what I would be watching for. Unfortunately, it looks like it's trying to make the higher low here, which is a little baby higher low, although it did trade with some volume. So I'll just keep watching this. I don't have to trade it, and if I end up having that evil number loss on the day, that's fine too. But I'll just continue to watch this setup and see if maybe it can do something, and otherwise I'm gonna go off and fulfill a whole bunch of orders, and I'll make an update when the market is closed. Alright, it is 11:10, just a few seconds after I sold. It looks like it is trying. I'd have like a sell order at like 9:17 for the rest of the shares in theory, but I did trade this inverse head and shoulder, second higher low, shoulder, head, shoulder, second higher low, and the goal will be VWAP at 925, but it might not get there. There was a lot of people who were selling at 9, and it just looks like maybe it was going to potentially be a top. Sometimes it only gets to the neckline. You know, sometimes it does a little more. In theory, it kind of had resistance here. So I did sell before it actually did break above this level. But I was in just 5 shares at 1103, which was right here, 1103. Here's that big red candle, and it also breaks this trend line right here. Classic listed stock red candle. Anyway, I was in at 1103 at just basically 881. So right here was my entry, 1103, and then I did sell 2 shares. It did drop to like the 70s, which I didn't like. If the setup doesn't immediately start working when I get in, because it seems like, to me at least, the way I trade, I'm in like right before it happens a lot of times. So because it kind of made a little baby range lower in the 70s, I didn't like it. So when it did get to 887, 1105, which was 2 minutes later, I did sell 2 shares out of my 5 shares, and then I did have that in theory sell order at 1108, which was right here when it looked like it was trying to break past 9 and maybe do some kind of a squeeze, right? But then it just looked like there was too much topping action at 9, and it did break above it. It got to 911, but it didn't necessarily do anything more. It had this red candle right here, so I did sell the rest, my 3 shares, at 1110, which was right here, and that was at 895, right before it actually broke past 9, and now it's under the trend line. So I'd probably be selling right here, even though my original risk level was if it were to have gotten down here, because honestly, this is the second higher low. But if it goes all the way to the bottom, it makes like a quadruple bottom. I'd rather just be out of the setup, even if it can turn around, because it might just break under it and do something crazy. So I'd probably be selling if I didn't sell then and there. And you know, I was in at Again, 881 with my $4 risk level. So in theory, if this thing would have broken, clearly not a second higher low if it's gonna break the inverse head and shoulders here. And then worst case scenario with slippage, I get out at 810. So 881, 44 bucks. And then I get out at 810. Worst case scenario, that's $4. So basically I was trading my $4 risk level. The setup kind of worked because it did uptrend, right? It didn't get to VWAP, but you know, it did make a move towards the upside at least. And yeah, this setup, it kind of worked. I mean, it didn't offer that much range, but it did something. Yeah, maybe I'll consider this more, you know, this little trend line as well as this when it failed. I'll have to keep trading, you know, listed stocks to get better at that, gain more experience. I like OTCs more, but you know, OTC commissions are going to be a thing, and I might as well get good at listed stocks too. I'll make an update officially now when the markets are closed. Alright, it is 8:15 and I'm here to call it off. Overall, I'm down like $6 something, but it's not the evil $6.66 that I was previously before I had that last trade with NRXP, and my whole trade was way back here. It doesn't even look like inverse head and shoulders anymore. That was a spike towards 9. Yeah, I'm glad I sold, even though I didn't get anything at 9 or above it. I got close to 8.95, but it just seems like there was too much topping action. But I knew it could have been wrong. It could have continued the uptrend and maybe make a run towards VWAP, but that wasn't the case. Clearly, it decided the downtrend. It kind of did another one of these things, inverse head and shoulder, shoulder, head, shoulder. Actually, yeah, it's exactly the same thing. It's almost like it broke a trend line as well. That's pretty interesting. It broke a trend line here, and then this was maybe the higher low, but I guess the range wasn't that nice anyway. It went from what, 786ish to 820, best case scenario 838, and then I mean it still held this level, and they had one more run up, so it wouldn't have been that hard to sell profitably. But yeah, that's interesting that it did the same exact thing. It breaks a trend line in an inverse head and shoulders. I am going to stay away from what seems to be, especially on a listed stock, the head of a potential inverse head and shoulders. It just doesn't seem like they're that profitable. And if it looks like it's just continuously failing, I don't want to get, again, stuck in something that's just putting up lower lows, and I'm trying to think, is this going to be the higher low that's going to play off and make the inverse head and shoulders? I like this one. It had more support, and that it also broke this downtrending trend line. It did the same thing here. I think I'm going to try to do that, and you know, I'm glad I at least don't have to pay commissions anytime soon trading listed stocks, so I'm going to stick to that $4 risk and just keep working from there. Unfortunately, again, it seems like starting Monday is going to be a thing, trading commissions, and I did trade again that other setup, CYBL, which completely failed, and it's also down like 11% on the day, which isn't, you know, necessarily nice either. It's just, yeah, it was a fake morning panic bounce play. I should have been better. In theory, I shouldn't have traded CYBL, and then I shouldn't have traded that NRXP because it wasn't like something that was continuously showing that it was going to work with the price action. It was just continuously doing lower lows, and you know, it's a red day as well. So yeah, that's the case there. And then that one with the, you know, setup that I did trade worked out because we had that trend line. So I'm going to be looking for that. I'm going to put trend lines and see, you know, if there's a reversal, I can consider a setup there. 2 trades I shouldn't have taken, and then that would have led me just slightly profitable with the last one. Would have been up just a small amount because I did trade a small size, and I think I was oversized on the first NRXP setup. And as for the one I'm long, sure, I'm up today, you know, but this thing can, you know, easily do something wrong, right, and downtrend. But I do like how it looks on the daily chart. It could still fail, obviously, and you know, that's a setup I'm planning to have for a really long time. If it fails, it fails. That's why I have a small amount in this setup anyway. And yep, that's all I have. A few good lessons. I need to be more cautious trading morning panic bounce plays. They don't seem to be working. You know, the volume just isn't really there, but maybe we can see something now that we just started this new week. That's all I have for today.